So in our last video, we talked about and we covered where to put lights, what angles of lights you can use, and where you should put lights. Should they be front light, back light, side light, etc. And in the next few videos after this, I'm going to go through a bunch of scenarios that I've run into and I see students run into all the time and talk about the best way to handle positioning your lights in those scenarios. But I want to take a quick break here. I want to take a step in between and talk about the three main types of lights and where you should generally place them in your show, okay? Because this can have a huge impact on your lighting. Putting the right type of light in the right place can give you easily 2, 3, 4 times the impact of putting a light of a certain type in the wrong place. So before we go into this, make sure you're subscribed here on Learn Stage Lighting. I want you to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, and then you'll be good to go. You'll be notified of all the latest videos in our 5 Minutes to Better Lighting series. Now, there's really only 3 types of lights out there. There are spots, there are washes, and there are beams. 3 types of lights. That's really all there is. Every light that you buy out there, that you go looking through somebody's catalog, is going to be one of these 3 types, okay? A spotlight is, and a light can fit into 2 of these. There's often hybrids that we talk about, which sometimes are, a beam and a spot or a beam and a wash. Sometimes they're kind of half of a beam and half of a wash, but hopefully they do a good job at both. The truth is, often they don't do as good of a job as the dedicated unit. But off my rabbit trail, there's 3 types of lights, and every light that you buy is going to fit into these 3 categories. Okay, so a spot is characterized by having a sharp edge to the beam of light, and that sharp edge allows us to do things like have tight edges if we have shutters in that light. It allows us to put projections like gobos into the beam of light so we can have a texture shining out onto our stage. Spots also, because of that hard-edged beam, are going to show up better in haze, okay, or atmosphere that's in the air. Next, we have our wash-type fixtures. And I'm purposefully not really naming types of fixtures here on names of fixtures because I want to talk about the type of light and have you kind of identify what you have access to that fits each type. Now, if you are looking for more info, I've got some articles below about wash, spot, and beam fixtures that I'll link to. So, wash fixtures are kind of the opposite of spot. They generally put out a fairly diffuse beam of light. They're often able to color change, even though some spots are not, but most washes these days are. And they are best for being soft, for not having that hard edge, but instead being able to project a lot of colored light often onto an object. So the wash lights in general are going to be less expensive than spotlights. And they're not going to give you the ability to put in patterns, but they give you a different look, something that's unique that I think is really important in a show. We'll talk more about that down the line. And beam fixtures have been popularized over the past few years. Now we see them in everything. They're the type of light that has a fairly wide opening coming out of the lens. And then out of that comes a thick beam of light. But that beam doesn't spread like a spot or a wash usually does. It's usually a very narrow angle so that beam of light travels very far. And so it's like a stick, through the air as you move the lights around. And these lights are really good and really powerful because even without atmosphere in a space, you can often see that tight beam through the air just from dust, literally, as you look across the room. They generally have the ability to put patterns and colors into them. They're generally moving lights, but sometimes they're not. And they're really great for giving you a different look, giving you an interesting punch in your show. And often, if they're a moving beam light, they'll have a prism, which allows you to then scatter that tight beam which looks really stinking cool. So the first part of this video was describing the 3 types of lights, but now I want to talk about where to put them. Specifically, whether you have atmosphere or not. Now, ask 100 lighting guys whether they would want to do a show with atmosphere or haze in the air, or whether they would want to do one with no haze in the air, and 100 out of 100 will say they want to do the show with haze in the air, because it just makes your lights better. But the truth is, and reality shows us, that you're not always going to get to have haze in the air. Whether it's your venue, their fire system can't work with haze in the air, and they haven't coordinated getting the right detectors in there to be able to use haze properly, or working with their fire department to clear that. Maybe it's just that it's not that type of show. You know, maybe it's that haze isn't in the budget. Whatever it is, when you don't have haze, you want to set up your lights differently. In general, without haze, you'll use your wash lights from behind. You'll probably put a lot of your spotlights in the front or side light position, so that you can make use of patterns and gobos shining on surfaces that the audience can see, like the sides, like the backdrop, like the ceiling above their heads. Okay? Now, beam fixtures can generally go on the floor or in the air, and generally go mid-stage or back with the wash fixtures, because you actually are able to see some of their beam generally in a room without haze. So when you do have haze or atmosphere, my best recommendation is putting washes mostly in the front, okay? You know, having less of them, using them to light surfaces and stuff, but putting most of the focus of your lighting rig in spot fixtures and beams, because we're going to be able to see the beam of light coming out of these fixtures exceptionally well when there's haze on. That means light coming from behind with a pattern in them is going to show you that pattern through the air, and I'll show you that through these videos lots of times. You know, coming from the front, you'll see the beam somewhat, but it won't be as exciting. So you want to put a lot of those behind or in the side light position. You know, your wash fixtures, like I mentioned, will be behind. And so it's just kind of a general way of laying things out. Again, as we go through these 30 days, just 5 minutes every day, though today we're over 5 minutes, we're going to talk about where to best put things and give you examples on how to do it. Awesome. So, like I said, be sure to subscribe. Also, go ahead and check us out on Patreon. Just launched. It's a great way for you to help fund these videos. Lately, I've tried a few new types of videos. They take more time than other ones that I've done, which, you know, means they take more time, more money. And at the end of the day, you know, if you can drop in a few dollars, or maybe more than a few dollars per month, it's going to help me to be able to grow and to be able to learn stage lighting for a long time. So I'd love to see you over there. And then in our next video, we're going to dive deeper into some of these situations where, you know, what do you do when you can't hang lights, when you can't do backlight, when, you know, things like that. In that video, we're going to talk about it. So be sure to subscribe, check out the latest, and I will see you back here tomorrow.